Have you ever been in a moment where time seemed to slow down, where every breath, every glance, every touch carried more weight than it should? Where you knew something was happening, but you weren't sure if it should? That's exactly what happened to me the night my dad's friend stayed a little later than he should have. And the truth is, I still can't decide if I regret it, or if it was meant to happen all along. My dad had been close to Mark for as long as I could remember. They grew up together, went through college side by side, and even now, years later, they still had this brotherly bond. Mark wasn't just a family friend. He was the kind of person who always showed up. At birthdays, holidays, even the random Sunday dinners when Dad wanted company. That night had started like any other. My father had gone to bed early, tired from a long week, but Mark stayed behind. He poured himself another glass of wine and asked if I wanted one more before calling it a night. I agreed, not thinking much of it. But what happened after? I didn't see coming. When he handed me the glass, his fingers brushed against mine. Just barely. So small, so fleeting, but enough for me to notice. Enough for me to feel my pulse skip. He didn't apologize or pull back right away. Instead, he just looked at me. His eyes steady, like he was waiting for something, an answer I didn't know I was supposed to give. I laughed nervously, trying to mask the sudden rush of warmth in my cheeks, and turned my attention back to the glass. But the silence between us shifted. It wasn't the easy, casual quiet we had shared for years. No, this was different. He sat down on the couch beside me, close enough that I could smell the cedar on his jacket, faint and earthy. The firelight flickered across the room, painting his face in soft amber. His movements were deliberate, unhurried, as he refilled my glass. Again, his fingers touched mine. Again, he didn't move too quickly. And again, I didn't either. He leaned back slightly, resting his arm along the back of the couch. His gaze lingered, not with a smile, not with words, just this look that made me feel both exposed and seen. "You always did like the good wine," he finally said, his voice lower than I expected. I let out a quiet laugh, trying to shake off the tension building between us. "Only when you brought it," I teased, lifting the glass to my lips. That made him smile, just a little. His eyes softened. "You always had good taste. Even back then." Back then. The words hung in the air. I tried not to think too hard about them, but my heart betrayed me, beating harder with every second that passed. I looked at him, and for the first time, I didn't just see my dad's friend. I saw a man, mature, steady, carrying something unspoken in his expression. "You've grown into someone completely different," he said after a pause. His voice was careful, thoughtful. "And yet, somehow you're exactly the same." I didn't know how to respond to that. My breath caught slightly when his hand shifted, not quite touching mine but close enough that the space between us felt impossibly small. I didn't move away. And neither did he. The quiet wrapped around us, not uncomfortable, but thick with something unnamed. Something waiting. Then, with a simple, almost casual motion, he let go of his glass and reached toward me, not for my hand, but to gently adjust the collar of my sweater. Slow. Subtle. Yet I felt every second of it. The stillness shifted. The air felt heavier. He didn't move back to the chair across the room. He stayed. Right there beside me. My mind screamed that I should say something, laugh, break the moment before it went too far. But my body stayed still. My breath shallow. My eyes locked on his. When his hand reached up and brushed a loose strand of hair from my cheek, I froze. The touch was light, almost careful, but it lingered. My heart hammered in my chest. Slowly, I turned toward him fully. I didn't know what I was inviting. I just knew I wasn't stopping it. His hand moved, settling lightly on my arm. Warm. Steady. Present. And then, finally, it lifted to my jaw, cupping gently below my cheek as though he was asking a question without words. Asking for permission. Asking if I would let this happen. I didn't speak. I didn't pull away. Instead, I leaned into the touch. The kiss came slowly, quietly. No warning, no demand. Just soft, steady, like we had both been holding back something we didn't even realize until that moment. My hand pressed lightly against his chest, feeling the rhythm of his breath beneath the fabric. I tucked one leg beneath me, turning closer, allowing the space between us to disappear. His hand moved behind my neck, not gripping, just steadying me, anchoring me. We didn't rush. We didn't explain. Another kiss followed, deeper, but still unhurried. When our foreheads rested together afterward, the silence returned. But now it felt different. Full. Not uncertain. Like the waiting was finally over. I realized I'd been holding my breath. Slowly, I let it go. His hand slipped to the small of my back, warm, steady, simply resting there. And somehow, that quiet touch felt heavier than anything else. I leaned in, resting my shoulder against him, my palms still pressed to his chest. Not pulling. Just connecting. The closeness wasn't about what might come next. It wasn't about the past or the future. It was about right there, in that exact moment. His cheek brushed against mine, and my eyes fluttered closed. No words. No explanations. Just the sound of our breathing, steady and in sync. His arm wrapped gently around me, pulling me into the space he made for me. And in that moment, the world outside disappeared. The noise, the rules, the weight of what should or shouldn't be, it all faded away. There was no rush. No plan. No regret. Just us, breathing together in the stillness of the night. And when I finally let my fingers curl into the fabric of his shirt, it wasn't to hold him tighter. It was because I could. Because I wanted to. That night, we didn't talk about what it meant. We didn't decide what would come next. We just sat there, lost in a moment we hadn't planned but couldn't deny. So let me ask you this. If you were in my place, sitting there on that couch, feeling the air shift, feeling someone's touch change everything, would you have stayed? Or would you have walked away? Tell me in the comments below. I'll be reading. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, so you never miss the next story. Thanks for being here.